My name's Nitebob. I've been a audio engineer for over 50 years, especially in the live performance touring world.
Hey, everybody. I'm Rich, and I also have been on the road for over 50 years. I'm a tour manager.
Some of the bands I've worked with in my wildly successful career, New York Dolls, Aerosmith, 6 years, The Stooges, Steely Dan. I was with them for over 10 years. Kiss, REM, Ted Nugent, Ace Frehley, 8 years, and on and on and on and on. I've done everything from Vegas to TV shows to concerts to shows with 100 people to shows with 200,000, 400,000 people. Big gig.
I started pushing amps around Todd Rundgren's recording studio in 1974. Went on from there with Hall & Oates, and then later Bob Dylan's Rolling Thunder Revue. I toured with Steve Forbert, Jim Carroll, Kiss in the 80s, John DiMucci and Dave Edmunds, Sophie Tucker, Steel Pulse for 25 years, Rasta, and Steely Dan for a few, Blue Oyster Cult, The Dictators, and now Tommy James and the Shondells.
I met Rich at a New York Dolls show in Cleveland with Kiss as the opening act. I asked him to go up and tell Desmond Sullivan and Peter Jordan to turn those amps down because it was too blazingly loud. We didn't have an intercom system because it was 1974. And in order to get a message up to the backline guys, you'd have to go up and tell them. So I kept sending Rich up there, and he performed very admirably, and we've been friends to this day. We were both on Kiss on the Crazy Nights tour. He was Kiss's tour manager. I was the front of house sound engineer for special guest Ted Nugent. There's a couple of good stories about Nugent versus Kiss on that tour. The Steely Dan thing was good. We just did a cruise.
Yeah.
Underground Garage cruise, where he was working for the Dictators. I was working for the Chesterfield King on the same boat, hanging out. And we're still at it, and we still like each other. And we're doing this, but no travel, no hotel.
Right. We decided to do this podcast because we'd begun to develop this interaction between the two of us, and we're telling stories about behind the scenes, the life on the road, the things you always wanted to know but were afraid to ask kind of stuff. And we developed it into something, and then it's like, okay, where do we take it? And we've talked about taking it on the road, but that's what we've done. Podcast became the obvious next step, and here we are.
At one point, we were doing interviews with Larry Milburn for Roadie Free Radio, and there was a lot of interest in what went on behind the scenes online, right? That people wanted to know the reality of putting shows on or moving shows around. We started developing this thing, which was like a live event where we would go to music schools or universities. And for people in the performing arts scene, we could tell them the absolute reality of daily life in the entertainment industry. You know, a lot of people have this kind of urban legend view of Vinyl Tapish backstage stuff. There is a good amount of that, but more of a reality check on what goes on.
I also like to warn people, be careful what they wish for.
Yeah.
They could end up like Nitebob and me. I spent 7 years teaching concert production at New York University. I wanted to help young kids with an interest into this industry. I wanted to share what I'd learned.
We both started out as musicians, believe it or not, right? And Rich still plays in two bands. I don't think I've played out in 2 years. Well, he plays out twice a month, every 2 weeks, right? I think you find a lot of people all have a basis in playing an instrument. I mean, I took a job running a rehearsal studio so I could rehearse in New York for free. And within the first week I was there, I met just about everybody in the music industry in New York City, right? And also realized that the performance level of musicianship was a lot higher than I thought. I mean, when you're mixing monitors for Johnny Winter, that was what I did like the third day on the job, mixing monitors for Johnny Winter, who's just like screaming high volume, blah, 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 and playing his ass off, you know, to begin to see what it takes. These people, even in rehearsal, they have a certain thing. And if you don't have that certain thing, you're kind of wasting your time. Work in an industry of savants, you know, people who do one thing really well and people who, for the most part, took up an instrument because they had no other way to really communicate how they felt about something. Part of my motivation for this would be I've accumulated a lot of knowledge about a lot of things in the 55, 56 years that I've been like playing guitar, being in the entertainment business. I know a lot about making records, a lot about recording, a lot about the instruments themselves, how to get a good hotel room in a sold out hotel. These little things, you know, that they don't teach you in school, just how to survive traveling all the time.
As much as it seems like all that's fun, it's a lot of hard work. You still got to put in the hours. You still got to do the work, and you still got to know your shit.
That was really well said. Bravo. It's like,
want to know what we know?
you want to really know what it was like to be on tour with the New York Dolls in 1974?
Tune in to Nitebob and Rich.